Hello and hope you have a good time. Today we want to talk about the last masterpiece of Christopher Nolan. Tenet is an American horror action film written and produced by Christopher Nolan and released in 2020. Nolan worked on the script for more than 5 years. Film production officially began in late 2018 and was completed in March 2019 by the cast. It was supposed to be in front of the camera in 3 months in 7 countries. Tenet met a positive response from critics. The cast and the technical aspect of the film were praised, but it was criticized for the complexity and ambiguity of the story and the weakness of the characterization. The film grossed $357 million worldwide, with a budget of $200 million. The most important reason for the film's failure at the box office was its screening during the corona epidemic. Subscribe our YouTube channel to watch the rest of this video and more. Stay with us for a review of Tenet's film. In critique of Tenet, it should be said an interesting idea, a mesmerizing action, but a constant challenge. You don't have to understand, just feel it, says a dialogue from the film. The question is, does not knowing the characters and their motivation, along with presenting persistent and complex hypotheses, closes the hands and feel of emotion? If we follow in his footsteps from Nolan's 3-minute short film The Insect to his latest film Tenet, his tendency toward parallel worlds and the temporal failure of his narratives is quite evident. We still come to the same main character in his short film who seems to be looking for an insect to kill him, but suddenly finds himself in a smaller dimension, or rather in another world. Later, his larger dimension grows above his head, that is, 3 different worlds. Facing these parallel worlds in Nolan films has different functions. Apart from the fact that the discovery of each of these worlds in the heart of the film is accompanied by a kind of surprise and shock to the audience, Nolan also uses this pattern for a permanent rule in his films. The rule that we can summarize in this statement is, hunting becomes a hunter or vice versa. The rejection of this statement can be found in all his films. This rule creates an atmosphere of distrust in Nolan's films. The characters' distrust of each other, as well as the audience of the characters. It also shocks the audience in the initial encounter with the film. It can be said that most of the people in the suit capitalist uniform are deceived by Nolan films. However, these costumed men themselves are always influenced by seductionist women from the women of noir, so that they too are too immune to this atmosphere of the deception. But on the other hand, the same rule of the hunter-gatherer and his subsequent surprise may come at the cost of disposing of the film. In a way, if all the power of the film is focused on this revelation, once it is discovered, this rule alone will no longer motivate people to watch the film again. Although Nolan's film required the audience to watch more than once due to the failure of time, the presentation of a lot of information through dialogue and complex puzzle design, the question is, what other elements after watching and fully understanding the puzzle of the film several times should he accompany the audience so that his film will never be forgotten over time and even flow in his life? Whatever this element is, it is rooted in the feelings and emotions of the audience, rooted in the audience's good knowledge of the characters' backgrounds, their intentions, and accompanying them throughout the film. This is the most important and first step. Pre-design any engaging action scene or create a complex puzzle. Deception and surprise, though, shocks everyone and makes them happy to watch the movie for the first time. But it is definitely a true characterization that the next time watching the movie, the audience will enjoy it and the characters will stick to his collar and will not let him go after the movie is over. This is the most important window into Tenet's film and basically the roots of Nolan's career. Nolan, as always, starts the movie or an incident, an event in which the characters know more than the audience and the plot is planned before the start of the film. The result is that we have to look for the characters with complete curiosity to figure out the story. The first time we watch a movie, we do not realize the danger in the scenes. It is true that, as always, we are facing a robbery in Nolan. But what is theft and from whom? It is not so clear. The importance of the story is the same. Perhaps it is not unreasonable to praise Granason's music at outset, which provides him with a great deal of excitement at the beginning of the film and other action moments. The next difference is that the information is the same. Simultaneously with the main character, we experience our first encounter with the phenomenon without knowing its details. In Inception, Cobb has another powerful storyline that brings us a little closer to him, in addition to stealing the minds of the capitalists by entering their sleep layers. Beyond all this, the fact that Cobb should look for a way to return home and visit his children is also his main motivation. Even in Interstellar, we have seen a father-daughter relationship in the background of Cooper's character before entering his mission. Keep in mind his decision, but in Tenet we have virtually no knowledge of the character's background and intentions. In Tenet we should not be expected to understand the hatred of the character we do not know in the final moments of the film, or one should not expect to feel the Tenet phenomenon in the midst of all these time hypotheses instead of understanding it. Meanwhile, the film expects us to accompany and identify with the characters. But let us give an example of the emotional moments of the film that have a small share to better express our purpose of these moments, that you feel good in these ones, like the protagonist's first encounter with the reverse direction of time, in such a way that the film takes a moment away from its fast and Hollywood rhythm and instead we hear the voice of the protagonist. We see a bird in the opposite direction of the wind, we watch the water hole turn upside down and move in the opposite direction of the cars. This form of narrative, which is based entirely on images and atmosphere, can justify the sense of Tenet phenomenon in the face of a huge flood of sometimes annoying explanations in the film. Even in action scenes, the first encounter with a car that turns in the opposite direction to the protagonist and the nail completely evokes the fear and excitement of reversing the event. Fewer objections can be made in its implementation. Another reason that is very much related to the knowledge of the characters and the sensory load of the film is the content that Nolan provides, and of course, in order to better understand it, more companionship with the characters is needed. Although Nolan had already begun motivations such as saving the lives of humanity by linking past and future people together in Interstellar, in Tenet, due to the intervening of most of the times and time path that each character follows, they say the issue has been pursued more seriously and contemporary. As a filmmaker of the time, Nolan constantly uses day-to-day concerns such as the horrors of the terrorism, technological advances, the threat of World War III, and human confrontation with physical phenomena in this film, which concerns for the future of human life and our individual role in the future has come up. Let's summarize the whole time complexity of this story in one sentence. A bomb that does not explode, that does not matter to anyone. The danger that threatens the lives of the future is like a bomb that has not exploded, but there are different approaches to it. The approaches we saw in the Dark series that the past, present, and future are highly interdependent. Every action of us has an effect somewhere in this universe. The past, present, and future are intertwined as in the film. They are so close that they can only see each other through a glass wall. Nolan has blurred the boundaries of these times because no matter how difficult and complex we may be to understand this closeness and entanglement. One approach is that the film antagonist has decided to destroy the universe by reversing the temporal direction of the universe due to the lack of a bright future on Earth and his illness. A selfish attitude that represents some of today's powerful people and politicians. A human being who thinks only of his own life, and if one day he cannot have a share in it, he will consent to the destruction of others. But another approach taken by the protagonist is based on the value of survival through the connection and dependence of the future and the past. Emphasis on having and saving your life and the lives of others. This complex narrative seeks to depict human dependence on one another without time constraints. So much so that Nolan has focused on matching the time trend from the POV or point of view for the blue and red groups in the final battle scenes so that there are no flaws and the reverse explosion scenes are spectacular. On the sensory potentials of this time cycle, the dialogues claim to come from for the course of the story without emphasis.